Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of The Franchise Show. This is coming live from the University of Nevada in Reno, in the USA, which is very, very exciting for me. It's an absolute pleasure to host this, even though it's 9:30 at night here in the UK. But it's a real pleasure because not only have we got two fantastic Johns in the room, but we also have a classroom full of wonderful students who are our next generation of franchisors, franchisees, and franchise professionals and business people. And it's really important for me to get this message out to the community and to understand how we can get franchising to a new generation. So, what do we do each week on the Franchise Show? We take a different topic and we find out what's under the hat of a different topic in franchising each week. So, the topic this week is Franchise Skool. And it's a great topic. If you're out there listening, if you're a student, if you're in the franchise community, this is going to be a little bit about what we should be teaching and what we should be learning as franchisors or as franchisees, and if we're as people within the franchise community. So always fantastic to have your comments, and it's always fantastic to have you here live on the show. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our wonderful guest speakers for the Franchise Show. First of all, I'm going to refer to you as Jonathan, if that's all right, because we've got two Johns. So Jonathan, for our virtual and our online audience, would it be possible for you to do a little introduction to yourself, to your class, and what you've been doing for the last 6 weeks?
Sure, absolutely. Well, welcome to the University of Nevada in Reno. We're happy to have you here, trying to figure out whether it's your English or our English that...
I'll let you decide.
Well, we followed you, right? We followed you.
Why don't we share it? Let's share it.
All right. So my name is Jonathan Breiter. I am a professor here. I've been teaching at this school since 2018. I teach a variety of business classes. Actually, the school asked me to teach a franchising class this semester. I had never taught a franchising class before. However, as we all know, or most of us know, or we'll find out soon, I spent 5 years in the franchise business with a company called Wendy's, old-fashioned hamburgers. I actually helped bring many stores to fruition in the United States, as well in the EU, where unfortunately Wendy's did not do well. And we can actually talk about why sometimes a franchise works and doesn't, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I teach marketing, I teach management, leadership, entrepreneurial finance, and many other situations. In the last 6 weeks, we have actually learned quite a bit about franchising. And what actually excites me, Harvey, is this revelation for these young folks here who, and they'll tell you, knew of franchising, kind of understood what it was, but wasn't really sure. And now they see a very substantial opportunity, whether it be, that they start a business and learn to expand it through franchising, or the other, meaning becoming a franchisee. So that's who I am. And again, I'm happy that everyone is here today.
Fantastic. You're also going to have to tell us about Barney the dinosaur and Pokemons before we finish today as well. And I'm going to leave that as a little teaser as well. That's fantastic, Jonathan. Thank you for that splendid and fantastic introduction, both to yourself and more importantly to those fine individuals that are sitting there in that classroom, because this is what my real passion is, and this is what it should be about for us all, bringing franchising to a new generation of people. So without further ado, it's time to introduce Dr. John Hayes. And if you're in franchising, you know Dr. John Hayes. John, it's fantastic to have you back as a guest. It was an honor to have you on once, and twice is amazing. So perhaps you'd like to let people know what you do and give yourself a little introduction as well. I'm sure most people know you, but go on.
That was a fantastic introduction by you, Harvey. I appreciate it. And I love your British humor as well as the accent. So it's always a pleasure to be on your program. And it's you bring in so many people. I enjoy meeting new personalities through this opportunity with you and talking to students, particularly at a university other than my own at Palm Beach Atlantic University. That's a pleasure, and being able to meet other professionals. So I've been at this a long, long time. Before we started, Jonathan asked when I started teaching, and I'm old. So it was a long time ago. But for the last 8 years, I have been building the Titus Center for Franchising. We do educate the next generation of franchisors and franchisees. That's our mission. And this comes in the twilight of my career, because I've been a franchisor and I have been a franchisee, and I've been an advisor to franchise companies since about 1979, when I first learned how to spell the word franchising. I was in my late 20s. I was teaching writing, communications, journalism. I was the head of the magazine writing program at Temple University in Philadelphia. And someone asked me to write a book about franchising. I really couldn't spell it, didn't know what it was about, but I spent 6 months doing the research, interviewed 100 people, wrote the book, and then God bless the media. They said when my book came out that they were going to interview the world authority on franchising, John Hayes. And I would laugh like I'm laughing now, because I was hardly a world authority on anything in my late 20s, early 30s. But I was the only person who wrote a book about franchising in the United States, a hardcover, real book. There was another book on, I think, how to be a franchisor, but it was a slim brochure type booklet from the IFA. And my book just caught on, and it introduced me to a lot of people, and it has never stopped. The book has been long out of print, but people will write to me about it. They find it online. The Library of Congress featured the book at one point during the pandemic. I don't think anybody saw it during the pandemic, but nonetheless, the book took on a life of its own, as books tend to do. And this one took me away from journalism, which was a blessing, because all the newspapers and magazines are gone. You can't make a living doing that, and pointed me into the direction of developing my career in franchising. So thanks to that, I meet people like you and Joe Caruso, who I think I see joined us, and others who I'm sure I'll know as well. Yeah, there's Joe.
That's it. Fantastic. Well, look,
I'm looking forward to this program and helping these young people who really they might have an idea now because they've been in Jonathan's class, but until you know something about franchising, you're missing such an opportunity. I've graduated 61 students from the Titus Center who have a concentration in franchising. And when I talk to them about their careers and where they are, the kinds of jobs they get right out of college, 2 to 3 offers they'll get from franchise companies. It's just amazing, the opportunities in franchising and the opportunities that an educator can give to young people about franchising.
I love that, and what a fantastic thing to hear for those wonderful people in the classroom there, and for any young people listening, that you go off and you do a course and it's exciting and it's interesting. It's another option if you're an entrepreneur, but 2 to 3 offers, 61 students. You're incredibly well connected.
Yeah.
Everybody I've noticed in the franchise industry tends to try and is quite well connected, tries to get on with one another. It's a great industry, it really is. But look, John, thank you for that fantastic introduction. But we also have 6 other wonderful people here today. Jonathan, before we introduce who is in the audience already with us today, could you please introduce the people that are in your class, because they are the stars of this show?
So today we're fortunate to have Nico and Javen.
Put your hand up when they say your name so I can see who's Nico. Great to see you, Nico.
See you too. We've got Javen here. We've got
Excellent. Great to see you, Javen.
Connor.
Lovely. Good.
Jake. And
Great.
we have Reed. And somewhere in the video ether is another student by the name of Travis. So
Travis.
he tells me that he's here, but he's a spectator, that he can't speak for some reason.
No, that's okay. Hopefully he will be able to comment, and when he does, we will put that up, that's for sure. And talking of the people that have joined us here live, I would like to recognize the wonderful people that are here with us live on the franchise show today. So we have the ever wise Simon Wise. He loves that. A fantastic friend of mine, and a friend of the franchise community here in the UK. He is a specialist staff recruiter for the franchise industry here in the UK. So if you're a young person and you're looking to get into franchising, then Simon's the person to connect with here in the UK, that is for sure. So please send connection requests to everybody that's associated with this show, because I want to help you connect and I want to help you find your paths in franchising. Who else have we got? We have Katrina Berry. Great to have you here. Katrina's from the UK, and it's always wonderful to have you with us on the show. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on how we can educate the next generation of franchise professionals, because this is what it's all about. This episode is all about going back to school, educating, learning, passing on what we know. And encouraging a new generation of franchisees. Dr. John Hayes spoke of Joe Caruso. He, again, is a person you need to connect with. He's a fantastic chap, a great expert in franchising, a really enthusiastic chap in franchising as well. So again, if you're a young person looking to get into franchising, look at the names on here. Connect with people on here, because these are great franchising individuals that are going to help you learn and improve and connect. And he's put, hey, Dr. John P. Hayes, CFE, giving you all your titles there, John, and Harvey Tuck. Good to see you both. Well, it's great to see you too, Joe. We also have the wonderful Leslie Flowers. And Leslie is a legend and has a LinkedIn live show that you also need to check out, all about the book Think and Grow Rich. And if you're in business and you're an entrepreneur, you would know of the book Think and Grow Rich. And Leslie is your lady to teach you all about that. And she certainly has taught me. And look at that, we have young Travis here. So Jonathan, Travis has joined us and he can comment. So you are in the classroom, Travis. And he's put, hi, everyone. Well, hi to you too, Travis. And great to have you with us. Now, we've got a question that's come in here from Simon. So let's take this. And what we can do, We're going to see what Dr. John Hayes thinks of this. And what I'd like to do as well, Jonathan, if this is okay, is put this question to your students, see what they make of some of these questions, if they would like to answer. And if you don't want to answer, don't worry about it. It's okay. But look, let me read it out. So,
answer, Harvey.
yeah, great. We've got across all international markets, we need to do more in franchising to attract the younger generation into franchising. To the students, what would that look like in a franchise? It's really interesting. So perhaps we could put that to the students first. Number one, what franchises are interesting to you? Is it F&B franchises, home services, the care market, and also what media formats do you think we need to use to educate a new generation about franchising? Great question, Simon. Thank you for that. And while you are all in the classroom having a little bit of a think about the answer to that one, if we could bring Dr. John Hayes back for this one. And what do you make of this question, John? So how can we attract younger people? What media do we need to use? And what franchises do you think would appeal? Maybe we need things in sectors that appeal to younger people.
It's pretty amazing what appeals to young people. Everything that appeals to us, actually. And when I think about, I taught today, so I'm just back from the university. One student came up to me and said he had seen at an expo in Fort Lauderdale a new company brought to franchising by United Franchise Group called the Exit Factor, I believe. It's a company that UFG is franchising that helps existing franchisees improve profitability and get themselves prepared to sell their business. Fascinating type of business. And my young student said, could you help me get an internship with Exit Factor, which I've been working on. Yesterday, I talked to the founder of the company, and there's a good chance that my student would be able to do that. Another student came in a little bit later after my class today and told me about he had just attended a huge conference for franchise consultants or brokers. 4 of my students served as interns at the IFPG conference in Hollywood, Florida, where there were about 800 franchisors and brokers present for the last 3 days. And this young fellow met with a food franchisor and is now interested, where he wasn't before, getting into the food business. So young people love what we love, Harvey. But I think what Simon is asking here, what are you going to look for from a franchise company? And the difficulty that my young people have at Palm Beach Atlantic University, and I have 60, I've graduated 61, but I have 60 currently in my program getting the concentration in franchising. They don't know what a franchisor does. When you tell them, hey, a good franchisor provides a system that tells you what to do, when to do it, how much of it to do, etc. You follow the system. A good franchisor, not all franchisors do that. Wow. So they want the system, because even though these young folks are entrepreneurial, they're not necessarily, they don't have $300,000 to put at risk, usually, for one thing. They might have $50,000, $70,000, $80,000, and with parents' help and maybe, in our case, an SBA approved loan, even though that's a little dicey when you're 21 years old, they may have a small amount of money. 10 of my 61 are franchisees today, and they've all invested under $100,000. And one of the reasons they do it, they want the system. They want to provide whatever the service is, but they wouldn't know how to do that on their own, or whatever the product might be, but they don't know how to do that without the help of a franchisor. That's one of the things that I know my young people would say that they look for from a franchise.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, John. Let's turn to the fantastic class that are here, and maybe take a few ideas about what you think would attract you into a franchise or attract other people of your generation to think about franchising. Is it the type of franchise? Is it how we promote it? What are your thoughts on that after 6 weeks?
I really think that if I was going to look into getting into a franchise, I would look at a franchise that has a lot of exposure, because to me that's the coolest part about franchising is you get to be in a business without having to, you don't have to have a new idea. You can just get into an already established business and make it work. So for me, I would look at an already well-established franchise like Chick-fil-A or like some kind of like a hotel, Four Seasons, something that's very well established that I could get into and immediately have a customer base. And
No, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry, who was that just said that? It's difficult for my old eyes to see.
David.
Fantastic. No, that's great. And you know what? I really agree with you when you said about an established business. You know, as young people, traditionally we have two options open to us. We've got getting a job and starting a business. But as an entrepreneur, when you're growing a business and starting a business, there can be a lot of challenges. And we're going to get on to challenges in franchise businesses, but there can be a heck of a lot more challenges in a business that isn't supported by a proven model, by other franchisees, by the franchisor. So one of the things that I'm going to come back to later when we do talk about challenges is something that John said there about money being one of the challenges. And it certainly is for young people. But I'm certain that franchisors would want to support and help people get over that. Before we get further into this conversation, let's bring up a comment here from one of the fantastic students that has joined us today. And this is from Travis. So I'm going to read this and let's see. Travis has put, I own a small, successful coffee roasting company and coffee shop in Lake Tahoe. Is that right?
Wow. Oh, he's good.
Yeah, it's difficult for me. I'm doing my best there, but California, I've got that bit. I am also a full-time professional skier traveling the globe. Wow, gosh. I don't have the bandwidth or time to expand or franchise. What are some options for expansion and growth, potentially using the franchise model, using other people's time and motivation? Also, what is the best way to structure expansion like this without giving up equity and control? Wow, Travis, I mean, very impressed. First of all, you're clearly a young person who really knows what they want to do there and has already achieved a great deal. John Hayes, first of all, I'm going to just call you John. It's weird doing your surname all the time. But what do you make of this one? Let's pick out a few things. What are some options for expansion and growth using a franchise model and using other people's time and motivation? Is that where you're going to get consultants involved if you've got a little business and you want to franchise that business?
Yeah, but I think, there are a couple of things here. I really appreciate Travis's comment and questions. And he's a professional skier who is traveling the globe. Okay, how do you operate a small, successful coffee roasting company? Even though I understand that's a simpler business, very popular in franchising, but also, I don't know, Joe Caruso probably knows how many brands in the United States are into coffee shops, coffee cafes. I don't know offhand, but a lot of brands, very popular. But you can't be out skiing, traveling the globe and taking care of business. Maybe you can do that with one roasting cafe, one coffee shop, one coffee cafe that maybe somebody is looking out after it for you, my first thought is sell the concept, sell it.
Mm.
You don't want to give up equity. Okay, I understand that, but why would a franchisee or anyone, and you're not really looking for franchisees, so why would they want to say, here, I'm going to put in the $250,000 it's going to take to get into business with you? Why am I going to do that? Do you have a successful system? You teach it to me, but you're busy. You're a professional skier, and maybe you're a student as well. When would you have time to teach me? And then it's Saturday afternoon at 3:00, and my system, my cash system has broken down. I can't do any sales. Help! I need support. Are you going to be there to answer the phone and support me? I would expect you to be there to support me. That's what good franchisors do. So there's a lot here that I don't want to be discouraging. At the same time, I don't think this is the right time for Travis to expand.
No, I think what you've hit upon, which I think is really interesting. As a business owner, we're going to bring up a comment that Joe has brought in a minute. But as a business owner, if you're looking to franchise your business, our lovely students and our next generation are thinking about franchising in all sorts of different ways. But for now, for this conversation, let's think about, you've got a business. Because I know, John, one of your students had a business, their parents' business, and they were looking to learn about franchising so that they could franchise that. So it's a very legitimate thing to do, to study franchising, to think, how can I grow my business using a franchising model rather than being a franchisee? But what you need to do is you need to get it. One thing that underpins franchising is a successful, proven model that's scalable and repeatable and can be taught. And, so you do need to have that motivation to build that. But look, let's see what you've mentioned Joe Caruso. I'm a big fan, so I'm always a big fan of what he says. Let's see. Joe's put, Travis, you need an operator partner to take on your responsibilities, and that person cannot be outsourced, and you will need to be well capitalized. I'm going to bring up something that Travis has said here, because Travis has said, I have a business partner who runs the business on the ground. So look, we've got here a successful coffee shop, and we've got a business partner who runs it on the ground. There's some ingredients there to get that going, I think, but it does need a bit of concentration, would you say, John?
Yes, exactly. As Joe pointed out, somebody's got to be the franchisor, and I don't think it can be Travis at this point. He's fairly busy. But a business partner who is the right personality, who can work with franchisees, who understands the system, can teach the system, support the system. That means he's got to get out of operating the coffee shop. He can't do that on a day-to-day basis when he's selling franchises, training, and supporting franchisees. So you're going to bring in another employee who's going to have to be paid. So I think that this is it's not an impossible situation. And I like that he already understands you're using other people's time and you're using other people's money, at least to an extent, to expand your brand. But we cannot take that lightly. In return for that, these people deserve our devoted commitment of energy and time, knowledge, including getting on an airplane and flying over to their location and spending a day to help them figure out how to make money at this.
Yes, absolutely. You made a really good point. In franchising, one of the things that you're buying is you're buying time. Any of these wonderful, motivated young people could go out if they had enough time, if they had enough money. And this is taking us to something that I want to talk about in a minute, which is challenges. But if they had enough time, if they had enough money, if they could spend a number of years developing a business and have a successful business and either grow it organically, grow it with private equity, grow it with other funding options or capital stacks. And franchising is a fantastic way to do it.
Right.
But when you are then taking it from the perspective of a young person getting into franchising as a franchisee, that's where you're buying time. You know, John and I are sitting here with lovely grey beards, but in franchising, you can buy that time and you can get into a business a lot quicker. Let's have a look at a couple more comments that have come in, and then I want to focus and ask the classroom that's here today and Travis and any other young people watching, what are the challenges they face getting into franchising? So Joe's put, I know a bit about coffee. Well, so do I, Joe, actually. So do I.
I would add to that, Harvey, for Travis's sake, there's Joe Caruso. He's on LinkedIn. He was in charge of Gloria Jean's Brewing, Gloria Jean's Coffee Beans, big franchise at one time in the United States. There's Joe. He becomes your mentor and friend and counselor. And so reach out to Joe. Because we can't really fully answer Travis's question on the show.
But you know what? This show is about posing questions, having some thought. But you're absolutely right, John. Reach out to Joe. He does know about coffee. A cup of Joe. Is that like an expression?
Yeah, right.
Is that all right? Yes, I have.
You Brits are clever.
That's good. Okay, look, let's bring up this, which will conclude our section where we were talking about Travis's wonderful business, and we were thinking about talking about a case study today, Jonathan, and wow, what a case study that has appeared today. So it's fantastic to hear this. And Travis has just finished off by putting, thank you everyone for your comments. I could bring in another business partner to focus on the franchising business as an option. Well, look, Travis, what's fantastic is you're thinking about this.
Yeah.
You're seeking expert advice and reach out to these wonderful people that are here already doing the right thing and being on the course, but connect with people on LinkedIn. John, Joe, myself, we can all point you in a fantastic direction. So this is what I would like to do now. I would like to get the class to think about what challenges do you face as a young person getting into franchising. And I think let's start with the perspective of being a franchisee. So, Jonathan, could you ask your class for some examples of some challenges that they think they're going to face getting into franchising as a franchisee?
Sure, absolutely. Jake?
Yeah, I think that as a young person, that gaining the confidence from a franchisor in my credentials or my ability or my resume might be the tough part about starting as a young person, because a lot of people in college haven't had the time to gain those experiences yet. And I would just like what credentials or experiences that we could gain to increase a franchisor's confidence.
I love that. Sorry, again, who was that just said that one?
Jake.
Jake, great. Yeah, love that, Jake. Love that. I think you're absolutely spot on with that. I think that when a franchisor is looking for a prospective franchisee, you're definitely going to look at the credentials of that person. So, John, what do you make of what Jake's just said there about confidence from a franchisor in a young person? You know, you've got, what did you say, 10 franchisees that are all young people. Was that one of the challenges they faced when they got into their businesses?
Sadly, I don't think so. I say sadly because, I'm not think of any of the 10 of mine, but there are cases where a franchisor isn't as concerned about you as you need to be concerned about you. So I think, Jake's question is right on. How do I get confidence? And that's what I would rather address. Franchisors want to sell, or sometimes they say award franchises. Okay, I'm all for that. That's, of course, what we've got to do. But we need people who are competent, who are a good fit for franchising, who understand franchising, who want to follow a system. One of the things that I love about the program that we've developed, and I believe we're the only university, I think, in the world, and I keep saying that, and I keep saying, please correct me if I'm wrong, that offers a concentration. It's not a certificate. It's not one course. It's not an online course. It is 12 academic credits in franchising. And they must do a 90-hour internship to earn the concentration in franchising. That intern, I have a young lady who has the record. While she was with me from her sophomore year on, she did 5 franchise internships. She did a Chick-fil-A internship, a United Franchise internship, a Home Franchise Concepts internship. That was her last one. And that provider of that internship, HFC, Home Franchise Concepts, hired her. One of 4 or 5 jobs she could have had upon her graduation. And those internships gave her confidence. Also, she wants to be a franchisee, but she's not there yet. The franchisor would sell her a franchise, but she's not ready because she feels there's more she needs to learn about operating a business. And how better to do that than to have a job with a franchisor working on both sides with franchisor and franchisee. And she's thrilled. They're thrilled with her. I've got other graduates like that as well. Those internships are invaluable. So I think that's a great opportunity for young people. And you don't even have to be in college to get an internship. You can go to any number of franchisors and say, I want to know more about franchising. I'll come in at the internship level. Many franchisors are open to that.
Yeah, I think that's such a fantastic way of getting into franchising with an internship. You can get the practical experience of working with the company, coupled with that learning experience as well.
By the way, Harvey, this isn't just going on in the United States. One of my students 3 years ago studied in London. He did a semester in London at the University of Roehampton. And while he was there, he did his internship with a shipping company based in London. They're like the UPS store, they do shipping like FedEx does. I can't think of the name right now. They're not in the United States, but they're in the UK. He also had an opportunity to do his internship with ERA, based outside of London. That's their world headquarters, expense reduction analysts. But he chose the shipping company. I think logistically it was just closer to the university and there was less travel time.
Fantastic.
These opportunities are everywhere. I just returned from a week in Croatia. There are many opportunities there in franchising, and opportunities for young people to get involved in internships.
Definitely. And you know what? Again, any young people, I've got children myself. They're all grown up. They're all of university, school leaving age, and they've all got different aspirations, different passions. Right now, we're thinking about franchising as understanding the mechanics of what franchising is, but actually we can look at this another way. And I think that this is something that should be applied to all universities and all people of school leaving age. Right? If you're interested, let's say, in catering and being a chef and the hospitality industry, right? You can then apply franchising or join a franchising company. It doesn't have to be about the franchising. It can still be about what you're passionate about, but you're then applying franchising to something you're passionate about. Jake, thank you so much for that comment and that question. It's fantastic. Let's bring up a couple of things here from our audience. I'm going to read what's on the screen right now from Simon. He's put, whether you are a franchisor or a franchisee, it can never work as a passive source of income. It's boots on the ground for both parties. This is going back to our previous conversation where Travis was trying to look at growing through franchising, but franchising is a model, a proven model, but it takes work from the franchisor and it takes work from the franchisee to make that model work. You know, you've got an engine, but it needs oil and it needs somebody, you know, behind the pedals to drive the car. Otherwise it'd just sit there and rot away. So having the thing itself is not necessarily good enough. Just checking on time. Jonathan, what time does your class run to today?
We've got at least another 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay. Well, we'll try and finish this in about another 15 minutes so that your class can have a little sort of summary at the end, and I'm sure they want to get going for what they want to do. But it's been a fascinating conversation so far, and if you have just joined us, this is the Franchise Show, and this is a special episode coming live from the University of Nevada, Reno, Nevada, in fact. We are live in a classroom. And we have some wonderful students that are studying franchising. And it's a great, great honor for me to be here with you all today, because this is what it's about. This is what it's about. It's about a new generation of young, enthusiastic people that have got great ideas for franchising to come in and apply those ideas. Let's have a look at what Simon's put here. Simon's put, do we need to educate about running our own business even before we start to talk about franchising? Or do we assume that if you're interested in franchising, you have a mindset for self-employment, running your own business already? This is a great question, and I think it's going to apply to both you, Jonathan, and you, John. And I'm going to go to Jonathan on this one, because Jonathan, I know you've got great experiences in business in general. You know, we're focusing on franchising at the moment here, but what's your view? Do you need to teach business first and have an entrepreneurial mindset and then apply franchising to that, or the other way around?
It's a great question, and we can pivot certainly from the business perspective here. Most of these students are graduating and they've been studying business for 4 years. And that's everything from accounting to finance, operations, marketing, and so forth. So their pivot is a little different. Franchising, this class opened them up to a brand new entrepreneurial perspective that certainly they never had. And I'd love to ask the class, you know, what they think. Could you actually become a franchisee of an industry that you were passionate about without having the education that you currently have about business, right? I think that's a great premise to pivot from right now. Can I throw it to one of the students, Nico?
Yeah, hey guys, my name is Nico. I think that you maybe don't need the running your own business education. I have a cousin who had 2 Snap-on trucks, and they were successful simply because he knew the tools and he knew how to sell tools and he knew his way around that kind of business. So what are your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. What do you make of that, John? I think you're absolutely right, Nico. You know, it can certainly go either way. A passion, though, you know, knowledge. If you have those two things, that can certainly be applied. What's your take on this, John.
So similar to the situation with Jonathan's students, my students are almost all business majors. So they're getting a degree in marketing or management, international business. That said, come on now, the state of higher education, there's a lot to be desired in the United States. I've been at 5 universities, including one outside of the United States. And running your own business after studying it through textbooks, no. You got to have the passion to do it. You got to have some know-how to do it. We have a leg up with franchising because Snap-on Tools, terrific franchisor, and they provide training on how to really run your own business. And it's not taught by the textbook. It's taught by actual people who were franchisees, maybe still are franchisees, and people who rolled up their sleeves, got their hands dirty, and ran a business. 95% of my students want to eventually own their own business. I would suspect that among Gen Zs, a very high percentage want to own their own business for a lot of reasons. One of them being lifestyle. You know, like my generation, the baby boomers, they don't want to just take any job because they need a job and they're going to give up 9 to 5, 5 days a week to go to the job. That's not happening with these younger generations. But do they have compatibility for running a business? Not everybody does. I always say, every one of the seminars I teach, franchising is the greatest methodology we know for operating a business and building your financial wealth over a legacy of some experience in a business. But it is not for everyone. Not everyone can be a successful franchisee, no matter what your grades were in business school. It's not compatible with running a system, listening to a franchisor, being trained, taking direction. If you're a franchisor who doesn't have patience, who doesn't understand that everybody learns differently, that's why I promote the DISC personality profile. You've got to know that profile and how to teach that person. And universities generally don't do that.
I think you're absolutely right. I think some great points there.
A lot to it here. You've got to have the confidence that we spoke about earlier. And yes, you need either to be educated about how to make smart decisions, HR decisions, people decisions, financial decisions. You got to know the numbers. Not everybody's a numbers person. It's the C personality that's better at the numbers, or you got to hire the numbers person. But you have to, first of all, realize that knowing the numbers is critical in running your business. You have to have a good franchisor who will teach you, who doesn't just give you 2 weeks of introductory training and set you out there. No, you come back and you learn. I just spoke at the CarWiz convention. CarWiz is based in Croatia, auto rental, about 400 units. At their annual convention over 2 days, they had people in workshops to teach them the numbers and what you need to realize when you see the numbers, to teach about customer service, how to talk to people. There are a lot of elements here, and you can't learn it in a short period of time, and you can't learn.
I think you're absolutely right. Thanks so much for that, John. We are starting to close towards the end today, but I want to finish off by asking the students, Jonathan, and this is a big question, and it's not necessarily going to be answered in one little session, but how do we bring franchising to a young generation, to Generation Z? Sorry, Z. Do we use, I know, John, you use some excellent social media, some short form video. Do we need to go on platforms that appeal to younger people? Do we need to be using TikTok, and do we need to be using this sort of thing to promote it? What's your thoughts there in the classroom?
I think that TikTok might be a good idea. I think that high schools are probably a better idea. When I was in high school, my idea of franchising was limited to just food chains. And so if I was in high school and I was exposed to the potential of franchising and then was able to take another class in college, I think that I would be, more high school kids would be able to think about their future if they were exposed to it sooner.
I love that. I love that. I think you're absolutely right. I've been talking here about universities and putting it into universities, but you're absolutely spot on there. If that was put into the sort of the business section of secondary or high school education, then people would be so much more aware of it as young people when they then enter that second stage of academic education at university. I love that. Great point. I think we are. What are we doing time-wise, Jonathan, on your lesson? You've got about 5 minutes left, haven't you?
No, we got about 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay, let's have a look at what Joe's put here. Joe's put Dr. John Hayes is right. Franchisors must have more than an ops manual. Rather an operation platform for onboarding, grand opening, daily support. Yeah, it's if you are out there as a young person thinking of starting a franchise business, what you've got to do is you've got to get your foundations right. Take your time with your foundations and seek expert advice as well. And to take your time, get different perspectives, build that solid foundation. Person thinking of, it's really important to do that. What's your take on this, John?
I would like to hear more from the students because I'm on TikTok and I do field trips for high school students to come to our university and spend half a day with us, getting to know our students and getting to learn about franchising. I think that kind of hit me on the side of the head. And rather than I need to do that numerous times a year to help build our program. And what else? Where else should we be? What else can we do to, I have 60 students. I want 160 students. How do I get them?
Thoughts, comments, Jaden?
I mean, kind of what Ethan just said made a lot of sense to me, but yeah, I don't really have anything.
They're pointing to social media.
Social media. Sure. Yeah. And I mean, that's how you're going to get in front of high school students. There's got to be some physical stuff, but, we've got to work out how we engage with a younger generation on social media. And maybe we need to use a younger generation that are passionate about franchising. Not everyone wants to see me with my old grey beard.
Or me, right. Exactly.
You got a lovely beard there, John.
Or Simon,
Harvey, if I may interject, I told you we had Wendy's here on Tuesday. We had the Vice President of Business Development and Strategy directly relating to franchising. And she explained that to open a Wendy's is about $2 million, right? So I think, as these students sit here thinking about their life, and I would take a survey and say they probably all want to have their own business at some point in time. But that cost of entry, right? The cost of entry, I think, is a barrier. The real consideration of whether or not franchising is right for them now. And we all know that there are many franchises that have less cost of entry, for sure. But would they be passionate about that concept or be passionate about that industry? So I think that's a real concern. And maybe John can comment on, that cost of entry. What do your students say about that?
Yeah, well, of my 10 students who have become franchisees to date, no one has spent, well, one did spend more than $100,000, but he had 4 partners as well. And the deal that they bought into had real estate associated with. So it was more of a $350,000 investment. but my students are looking at service businesses, and they're generally under 100,000 in most cases.
Mm.
On my advisory board, I had a fellow who owned 220 Wendy's, and private equity bought 200 of them. Well, he got his start right out of college working for Burger King, became a trainer at the franchisor, then got fired by Burger King when they got acquired by, I think, a British company, Harvey. And he was a little put back by that. He and a partner put together money and had some other, and they bought their first Wendy's. That was the beginning of a long journey for that fellow. There are a lot of concepts, and there are people who want to invest. I have private equity people on my advisory board. I have others who want to mentor my students and would help back them financially.
Definitely. I think it's worth noting at this point, when we're talking about funding and financing being a challenge, it's probably worth looking at things like crowdfunding as an example. It's also probably worth looking at what franchisors are really looking to promote their business to a younger generation, and whether they do equity share schemes and other ways to limit that initial capital investment. I think our franchise industry they want to help young people. They just need the mechanics to be able to do it. If as educators and as young people, we could go to them and say, well, look, if you offered crowdfunding, equity share, support, you would have hundreds of thousands of young people wanting to get into franchising, then I think, that's starting to be the secret to what is going to start that process. I love what you've said there about TikTok. I mean, I've got to put up what John said. What Joe said. Joe's put, John is living proof of old people using social platforms.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. I don't mind being old.
You're a youngster, John. You're still a youngster, whippersnapper.
Right.
Simon's put here, if I had someone who had the passion but not the capital, I would work hard to put a deal together to get them in. Shared equity arrangement. Their passion will drive the business and generate the profits that can be put back into the business. Hold on. To pay off the startup costs. Yes, there are some ideas. And you know what? We are coming to an end now. But funding within franchising for young people is a topic that we're going to have. I think it's going to be a topic that we're going to have in the future. Let's have another session like this. We'll bring it to lots of different classrooms and hopefully the same classroom. And it's going to be fantastic to hear how you've all got on. So we have come to the end of today's session. First of all, I would like to thank John Hayes for his time again. I hope that you will be a regular guest and we can do this many more times. I think there might be one coming up with your students towards the end of this year. I'll try and get that sorted out. I would love to thank our fantastic audience as ever. And thank you for your patience and understanding with me getting the time differences wrong. We're all human. It's fantastic always to have you there. I'd like to thank Jonathan for the opportunity to have this live show and for his class to be with us for that. And finally, and most importantly, I would like to thank the students that are here live today. You're all fantastic. I wish you every luck with what you're doing. Please connect. I think most of you are connected with me. Connect with me, connect with John, Simon, Joe. They all accept your connections and they all will help you in what you want to do. So my heartfelt wishes to you all. Please reach out to me or anybody if you need any help. And I hope to see you all again in the future. So next week on the franchise show, and I need to look at my old-fashioned diary, my paper diary, classic. We have Ron Bender, and we are talking about franchise jargon. So we're going to be unraveling terms like mumbos. And I thought that was just a song. But that's going to be fantastic. Really look forward to that. Next week on Franchising Brand Stories, we are going to be interviewing Pip Wilkins from the BFA, and we are going to be finding out about the results of a 5-year survey of our franchise industry here in the UK. So there's going to be an unveiling of that, and the results, I'm sure, will be very fascinating. So join us for both of those at 5:15 UK time. And until next time, my friends, take very good care. Cheerio.